Okay, so now we're back and let's wrap up chapter 5. I mean, it's a great discussion. They all are, but and all of it needs to be mastered to truly understand and maximize your value, your interests, your power, and your understanding as a project manager. So the PMO, the Project Management Office, I mean, here's an office that sits at the top of the pyramid. I mean, it's part of the C-suite. When I say C-suite, I mean the group that sits around a table with the company's CEO, next to the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, next to the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, and you might have a CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, the Chief Technology Officer, the Chief Finance Officer, right? The list goes on and on. But the PMO sits up there with them. And the PMO is about managing resources for the right projects, whether it's a functional organization or a projectized or a matrix. They're about putting out materials to you that become templates. And the one reason they want you to use a template is so that you have a great industry useful tool that is applicable to what you're doing. But at the same time, they want a common tool so that they can collect the information up, cut and paste into their own dashboard, right, quite easily. And so the PMO is also going to make sure that you have the right policy that you're applying in your project, and that you get the say you identify team members that need training in Lean Six Sigma for quality or process improvement, perhaps, or statistics, right? If you want to do some statistical analysis. So with that, the PMO would get you that training along the way. So they really do a lot for you, useful. And so they're, as I mentioned, they're establishing those administrative procedures. They're giving you the guidelines. A PMO today is going to manage a project of high significant value or high strategic value. But otherwise, it's going to manage a program, which is related projects, or it's going to manage a portfolio, which includes projects and programs. Now, it can also manage operations along the way. So its spread can be broad. And it's concerned with governance, risk, and communications. Those would really be the focus, in addition to those other items they do for the project manager that I already mentioned, which would include templates, policy, resources, training, those sort of things. Okay. There are a project management office can be an information center. It can establish procedures and practices, or be a resource unit too. So you want to understand what type of PMO you have. They are not all built equally, right? Just like project managers or projects, right? And so we want to understand the environment that we are working in would be the point. I've already mentioned a lot of these things the project management office does. One I will mention new, which is maturity, right? They are always maturing the project and the program offices, right? And so your maturity level, not you personally, but as an organization that manages projects with metrics and milestones and support and closing on time, right? Scope, schedule, cost managed, tying to it to strategic value, which we talked about in week 1, right? So these are some of the things that are going to be the focus of a project management office along the way, right? And so they are also going to audit your work. I, as a project manager, invite audits. I want to know I'm meeting their needs, and I'm getting recommendations from them if I'm not meeting their needs or not doing something well, or if I could do something better is a nice way to put it. So I don't mind an audit. Tell me what I can do better. Am I following the processes that I'm supposed to be? I love it, right? Because that's how we fine tune and become high performing along the way. If I'm starting a project and I want to look back at some historical records. They're going to have the archives for those. I expect that the staff meetings with the CEO, they are championing my effort for me, right, along the way. And it's where all project managers go to make their home, right? They will assign you to the project once the business case has been determined to go forward and it's published by the C-suite. We talked about the business case and business documents back in week 1. Okay? And they'll help you close out the project. Now, the 5 steps for PMO success. You want to make sure that you have measures, quantifiable measures, things that you can study along the way and report up on to prove your accomplishments. You want to have a schedule that works. You want to have the resources you need to achieve that schedule, scope, and cost set of constraints that you're working under as a project manager. And this is going to help establish credibility throughout the organization. And so get the best people for the PMO, sure. I say get the best people for the whole organization. Now, when they're getting the best people, you're going to have a project team that becomes part of it, right? You're going to want these are some of the functions you might have on the team. You'd have a budget person, you'd have a risk person, you'd have a quality person, that sort of thing, right? These are important features: a communications expert, a scheduling expert, scope expert, which we call a business analyst, those sort of things. Those are key factors in a project team. And so there are human factors and there are non-human factors, right? So resources are important, whether they're human or whether they are equipment or facilities or the electric to run your widget maker that you're trying to perfect, etc. The human resources are probably the most expensive along the way. And so your job is to develop these human resources that are assigned to you, whether you're in a matrix or functionalized or projectized type organization. Regardless of the organization, it's your role as project manager to make sure that you are framing and forming and developing the team, managing the team along the way, creating a high-performing team, working through Tuckman stages of team development, that sort of thing, right? And so, and your job is also to make sure you manage conflict. We talked about that, right? We talked about how conflict is natural, but you want to work through it. You want to let people deal with things at the lowest level as long as it's not impacting the project. You want to avoid frustration, right? Because that's not going to lead to a high-performing team. You want to create a path for great decision-making and watch out for that along the way. And you need to make sure that the team develops, do team-building skills, whether you're going out to build a tent city in the military, or whether you're doing a bouncy castle event and then doing lessons learned after that over a beverage of your choice. Do team development skills along the way. And that's why the Project Management Institute includes develop team as its own process while you're executing the project itself. Okay, we're going to stop there. That ends chapter 5. Next, we're going to start up with project part 2 and go into project planning, starting with chapter 6. Activities, which are really related to schedule and risk management along the way. Okay, so I'll see you guys in a little bit. I look forward to it. Bye-bye.